If you've ever searched for side hustle ideas because you knew you couldn't stay in your job forever, you've probably seen the same list over and over again. Drop shipping, selling products online, becoming a content creator, starting a course. And if you're already tired from the job you're trying to leave, that advice doesn't make things feel easier. It makes things feel heavier, especially if you're already tired at the end of the day, especially if you're not trying to become an influencer, especially if what you actually want isn't another job, but a way out. A lot of side hustle advice assumes you have extra time, extra energy, or extra clarity. And many people don't have any of those things right now. So in this video, I don't want to give you a list of trendy side hustles. I want to show you a few realistic ways people quietly start building options for themselves while they're still working the job they want to leave. Because at the beginning, a side hustle isn't supposed to replace your income. It's supposed to prove to you that you have options. And if you're new here, this channel is for people who feel stuck in jobs they hate and are trying to build a way out. And just so you know, I'm also building my way out and sharing what I learn along the way. When people hear the words side hustle, they usually think they need to start a business. But most side hustles don't start that way. They start with helping one person solve one problem. That's it. Not building a brand, not launching a website, not figuring out your life purpose overnight. Just helping one person once. So I want to walk through a few examples that start with things many people already do at work every day. They just don't realize those skills have value outside their job. Some of these might not sound like typical side hustles at first, and that's intentional because I didn't want to repeat the same lists you hear everywhere else. I wanted to show you side hustles you can build from skills you most likely already have. Most of these examples involve helping small business owners or independent professionals who don't have the systems in place that larger companies rely on to keep things running smoothly. And that's where people like you often have more value than you realize. So let's walk through a few examples. The first example might sound unfamiliar at first, but stay with me. Process cleanup for small businesses. All this really means is helping a small business or independent professional turn something messy into something simple and repeatable. Things like organizing customer requests, tracking follow-ups, or creating a checklist so things stop slipping through the cracks. Basically, simplifying how something gets done. And you probably do this already. If you've ever been the person at work who figured out a better way to keep track of something, you already know how to do this. A lot of small business owners don't actually have systems. They have habits, and habits break when they get busy. So having someone who can help with this can be incredibly valuable. And sometimes that work turns into something even more valuable. Writing simple, step-by-step instructions so other people can follow the same process later. And this brings me to the next example. Another example is creating simple training guides, so business owners don't have to explain the same things over and over again when they hire new employees. These are sometimes called SOPs, standard operating procedures. And all that really is just step-by-step instructions of how to do something, like a process, a workflow, or a procedure. If you've ever written something like, here's how we do this, so someone else could follow it later, that's the skill. And it's more valuable than most people realize. I also want to say something here before I keep going. Some of these ideas might feel unfamiliar or even a little uncomfortable at first, especially if you don't see yourself as a salesperson or someone who pitches services to people. And that's completely normal. Building something outside your job almost always starts with doing one or two things you've never done before. Not because you're becoming someone different, but because you're giving yourself a chance to move a little closer to the life you actually want. There are a lot of people who work for themselves, who are great at what they do, but they're overwhelmed by the organization side of running a business. Sometimes they just need help keeping track of things like their clients, follow-ups, documents, or simple systems. If you're someone who naturally keeps things organized for other people at work, this side hustle might be the perfect fit for you. Another option some people overlook is freelance writing, not blogging, not becoming a content creator, just writing things businesses already need, like instructions, guides, emails, website updates, or internal documentation. If you already write clearly at work, you already have this skill. So this side hustle is definitely worth looking into if you're good at writing. Virtual assistants. Becoming a virtual assistant can also be a good starting point, especially if you already manage schedules, emails, tracking systems, coordination tasks, or logistics. And this really proves that finding the perfect side hustle doesn't have to mean starting over. It can just mean using the same skills in a different setting. Decision support sessions. Some people don't need coaching. They just need someone to help them organize their thinking so they can make the best decision for themselves. Sometimes that just means sitting with someone for an hour and helping them sort through their options, narrow down what fits their situation so they can leave with a clearer next step than they had before. That could be something like deciding whether to change careers, whether to start a side hustle, or whether to stay where they are a little longer while they prepare a transition. If you're the person your friends already come to when trying to figure something out, that's a real valuable skill. Because sometimes what people actually need isn't advice. They just need help seeing their options clearly. And sometimes the same kinds of problems people need help thinking through can be solved with something simple you create once and share with others. And this leads me into the next side hustle example. Another option is creating something once that people can use again and again. Things like a checklist, a tracker, a planning worksheet, or a guide that solves one specific problem. These don't need to be complicated. They just need to make something easier for someone else. And last but not least, teaching a small skill. Some people eventually turn what they know into a short class on platforms like Udemy or Skillshare. This usually works best after you've helped a few people already and start noticing the same questions coming up again and again. And this is not where most people start, but it can grow naturally over time. If one of these ideas felt closer to something you could actually see yourself trying, let me know in the comments. I can make a more detailed video walking through how something like that could get started in real life. Some of these examples might sound similar on the surface because they involve creating guides, checklists, or systems. But the difference isn't the format, it's the problem you're helping someone solve. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, this still sounds like something I wouldn't know how to start, that's completely normal. Most side hustles don't start with strangers on the internet. They usually start much closer than that. Often, the first paid opportunity isn't a friend or a family member. It's someone one step outside your normal circle. A small business owner, a colleague's contact, or someone in a community you're already a part of. A simple place to begin is this. Think about one type of person you already see regularly in your life. A hairstylist, a real estate agent, a therapist, a small shop owner, a coach, a consultant, or anyone who works for themselves. Then ask, what problem do they deal with over and over again that I could make easier? That question alone opens more doors than most people expect. And you don't need a website to start noticing this. You can pay attention to places like local business pages, LinkedIn posts, community groups, online conversations, or even questions people are already asking. Because people describe the problems they need help with every day. Most people don't notice these moments because they assume what they know only matters inside their job. Sometimes you'll hear people say things like, I keep meaning to organize this, but I never have the time. Or I spend hours every week explaining this to new people. Those moments don't mean you should start charging the people in your life. They just help you notice the kinds of problems people already trust you to help solve. And once you start noticing those patterns, it becomes much easier to recognize where those same needs exist outside your immediate circle. If you're still not sure where to begin, try this. Think about one thing people already come to you for help with. Something they ask you to explain, organize, or figure out. Then ask yourself, if someone needed help with this outside my job, what would that look like? That's often where side hustles begin. And if no one comes to mind right away, that's okay. Sometimes the first step is just noticing what kinds of problems you naturally solve. Some of these examples might sound small, and that's intentional. At the beginning, the goal isn't to replace your income overnight. It's to create your first piece of evidence that you don't have to stay stuck forever. You're not trying to build a business yet. You're trying to build momentum. Most people who eventually leave jobs they hate didn't start with a big plan. They started with something small that showed them they weren't as stuck as they thought they were. And that first piece of evidence matters more than most people realize. Most people don't stay stuck because they don't have skills. They stay stuck because they don't realize those skills can exist outside their job. The first step isn't building something big. It's just proving to yourself that your experience already has value somewhere else. You don't need a 5-year plan right now. You just need one small step that reminds you staying where you are isn't your only option. And once you start seeing those options, the next question becomes, what direction actually fits your life? And if you're starting to realize you might actually have more options than you thought, but you're still not sure which direction makes sense for you personally, the next step isn't choosing a side hustle. It's figuring out what kind of exit would actually fit your life. I made a video about the first step to building an exit plan that doesn't require quitting your job tomorrow. And that's a good place to go next.